Welcome to Beyond Business, the program where we look at the latest trends in the global economy. Some call it bubbly, some call it fizz, but I'm guessing almost all of us know it as champagne. Today we're asking what's in a name and if you believe sparkling wine producers from the Champagne region here in France, the answer is quite a lot. They're spending millions each year to ensure their product is the only wine that's labeled champagne. And as our report shows, they're willing to stretch the principle to other products as well, including even perfume.
Welcome to Colombey-la-Fosse in France's Champagne region. Frédéric Gallois is wrapping up this season's grape harvest.
To know if the grape is ready, the right quality, make sure the grain is really black, no hint of green.
Frédéric Gallois isn't the only champagne producer protective of his livelihood. Hundreds of winemakers in this region harvest 34,000 hectares of vines, a gift from the earth, guarded by the French equivalent of the EU's protected designation of origin. To defend this wine treasure, champagne producers got proactive. They put together the Interprofessional Champagne Wine Committee that goes by the acronym CIVC. 6 legal practitioners watch over the champagne label, and they've got their hands full. Fake champagne, shampoos, shoes, cookies, and even dog toy makers have their eye on the prestigious title.
If we allow other usages for the champagne appellation, one day people won't know if the word champagne alludes to wine, perfume, soda, shoes, lighters, animal, toys, etc. That's what we're trying to avoid.
The CIVC's budget stands at €2 million a year, and its main battleground is the courtroom. In 1990, Yves Saint Laurent learned his lesson the hard way. The French designer wanted to call his newest perfume Champagne.
People from the Champagne region felt that that name took away from the champagne label. It would have allowed Yves Saint Laurent to profit from the added value created by Champagne's image.
De la valeur ajoutée créée par la notoriété de l'appellation Champagne.
In the end, Saint Laurent renamed his perfume Ivresse. But that highly publicized lawsuit wasn't enough to deter other hopefuls. In 2008, Chamalal offered consumers a non-alcoholic version of the celebrated wine. The CIVC went back to the courtroom and once again got its way.
Here you have a capsule, an iron wire cap, a foil sleeve that's typical of champagne bottles. Then there's the label, and of course the name, Chamalal. That is a direct throwback to the champagne name.
The legal team has done its work. Today, the name is protected in 130 countries, seen here in green, but not in the United States. Some wines produced there continue to be called champagne. In response, the CIVC decided to reach out directly to the American consumer.
We put together an ad campaign that plays with the origins of very familiar products, so the American consumer can see that there is something strange. The name and the origin of the product don't match. And the next page asks the question, champagne not from Champagne? You see, that's the idea. We're talking to the average champagne buyer in his language, with terms he's familiar with, and in a non-aggressive way. The campaign is meant to be funny.
That sense of humor disappears in a flash, though, when we bring up the CIVC's failed battles. The Champomy case is especially sensitive. The committee lost its lawsuit against this non-alcoholic bubbly drink for children. From the bottle to the presentation, everything brings to mind the adult version. But for the judge, Champomy poses no threat to champagne producers.
Now, for more on the efforts to protect the name Champagne, we can turn to Thibaut du Manoir. He's a lawyer specializing in competitive intelligence and intellectual property rights. He's also written a book in which he looks at the power of the champagne lobby. Welcome to the program, Thibaut.
Thank you.
Let me first ask you this. When you look at that report, you get the sense, or at least I got the sense, that the champagne lobby has been fairly successful in protecting the brand Champagne. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, but in the report, we saw that there were some failures. The first one was in US, and it's very simple to explain why. It's because the laws are very different from France and from Europe. And the second failure was with Champomy.
This children's drink here in France.
It's a soft drink for kids, and you saw the bottle, and the bottle is very close to a bottle of champagne.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have a confusion between both. But in fact, at the beginning of the 90s, Pernod Ricard created this Champomy, and of course, CIVC tried to sue Pernod Ricard. But when you go to the court, you are not sure to win all the time. So CIVC and Pernod Ricard decide to have an agreement. And the agreement was very simple. Champomy can keep its bottle, but it was forbidden for Champomy to use the atmosphere of champagne in his ads, in his commercial documents.
Okay, so a deal was struck when it comes to that particular case.
Yes, but 10 years after, Champomy made an infringement to the agreement and used the atmosphere of champagne to promote Champomy. So CIVC decided to sue Pernod Ricard.
Take them to court once again.
Yes, but CIVC lost its case just because the court decided that in 10 years, Champomy created its own atmosphere, which is very different from champagne atmosphere now.
So we're seeing the champagne lobby taking all different kind of routes to protect the brand champagne through the courtroom, as you say, and also through this publicity campaign in the United States. But would you say that it's actually worth the money? Is this a good investment for champagne producers? Is there a real risk that the name champagne could be watered down, really, I suppose?
I think it's a very good investment for the champagne producer, for the champagne makers, to defend their trademark or their label, because they can keep a kind of monopoly on this beverage.
Okay, so the 2 million euros each year, champagne producers, they're actually getting that money back.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Now, how common are infractions, though? We've spoken about champagne. We also saw in the reports that Yves Saint Laurent tried to introduce this perfume known as champagne. How common are those kind of infractions if we look beyond Champomy and beyond champagne, that perfume?
Yeah, because CIVC invests a lot of money to develop the champagne name, so it's a temptation for Yves Saint Laurent, for other people
to basically cash in on that same name.
Yes, so it's quite normal that the CIVC try to stop all that actions.
Would you say that the CIVC is powerful?
I think it's very powerful. It's very well organized, and you said that they have 2 million euros each year to defend their trademark, which is a huge amount.
Mm-hmm.
And behind the CIVC, you have something which is Institut National des Appellations, National Institute of Appellations. And this institute gives more money to defend the trademark of champagne and of other products from France.
How unique is the CIVC, first of all here in France, but also internationally? Are we seeing other lobbies next to the champagne lobby? Do we have a Bordeaux lobby, for instance?
Yeah, in each vineyard we have the same kind of organization. For example, we have the CIVB for Bordeaux at the end, or CIVP for Provence, and all the vineyards are organized just like champagne. But the other committee have less money than the CIVC.
So the CIVC is definitely a case in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a case because the turnover of champagne is very important, and it's a turnover made abroad of France. So it was very. They received a lot of help from the French government to develop their actions.
Now, along with other money Western companies, champagne producers, they're eyeing developing economies such as China in which to sell their products. What's the situation like in those kind of countries? We've talked about, yes, here in Western Europe, the name champagne is very well protected.
Yes.
Perhaps not in the United States, but there are some other arrangements being made there. But what about developing economies?
Yeah, we saw in the report a map And you can see, for example, that in China, champagne is protected. But in fact, to have a good protection, you need three things. First, you need a law. And when China went to the WTC, the World Trade Organization, they passed a bill. But after that, you need to have a judgment, and an impartial judgment. And we do not have that in China. And the third thing is you need to enforce a judgment. And it's impossible in China to enforce the judgment.
So there are a couple of loopholes, so to speak, in Chinese legislation.
No, I think you have in the Chinese legislation all the rules to protect champagne, but the rules are not applied.
All right, with that, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Thanks very much indeed, Thibaut du Manoir, for speaking to us today. And with that, we're going to wrap up the program as well. Thanks for watching Beyond Business, and do stay with us. We have a lot more news coming up here at France 24 for you.